How much am I eating in my improvement season? Oh my gosh, I always get asked that question. So here's the deal, you guys. What's going on, you guys? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you are new here, thank you for joining. I am Lexi. I'll put my Instagram up above. If you are not new here, you know the drill. Thank you guys for returning and just continuing to watch my weird self put out some content. So I have promised you guys that I'm going to start pushing out content more frequently, so I'm going to live up to that promise. So today we are doing an improvement season Q&A. Super exciting. So what I did is I put up a question box on my Instagram, and I asked you guys to ask me some questions personally that you had about like my improvement season. Now, those of you on here who are like, well, it's an improvement season. Essentially, it is the non-prepping part of the bodybuilding journey. So I am a bodybuilder. I am a bikini competitor, and I'll put my latest stage shots up here. I haven't competed since August of 2021, and it is June of 2022. So essentially, I have taken that whole time to just build because my feedback from my show was, Lexi, you need to just put on a little bit of size, you need to put on muscle, and you know, me being a natural female athlete, I know that that takes time, and I'm not going to build enough muscle if I just take a few months off. So I am probably most likely taking this whole year off and then going to be back at it next year, but I am okay with that. I've learned to be okay with that, and essentially I'm going to answer questions for you guys. So another thing I'm going to do is up above, I'm going to also put up a current physique update, so you can kind of see like what I'm currently looking like. I'm currently about 13 pounds up from my stage weight. So I'll put my pictures up above so you can see my current physique and kind of compare that to my stage shots. So here's the drill. I'm just gonna run through the list, address things that you guys essentially asked me on my Instagram, and we'll go from there. So you guys asked some good questions. So first question, what do you think is the most important component of gaining muscle? Great question. So I think it personally comes down to three things. First and foremost, you know, one of the most important things when it comes to building muscle is your food intake. You know, if you are really wanting to optimize the amount of muscle that you're building, you have to be okay with eating either in a maintenance or a slight surplus. You know, eating a slight surplus is going to even further optimize your ability to put on lean body mass. So food intake is number one. Number two is, I would say, training intensity. Like if you want to put on muscle, really be real with yourself. Are you training heavy in the gym? Are you pushing yourself? Or are you just going into the gym kind of just like going through the motions and just not really like having an intense workout? Or are you going into the gym and doing like a bunch of like HIIT cardio, circuit training, plyometric type of deals? Like there's nothing wrong with that style of training. However, if you are a bodybuilder, you're looking to optimize muscle growth, you need to really have a strict regimen where you're lifting heavy and progressively overloading. And then the third thing I would say that's really important for, you know, it's a key component to building muscle is your rest, your recovery. You know, if you're somebody who is training 6-7 days a week, like you're cutting yourself short. I mean, that's a big mistake, and I made it back in the day, learned from me. But, you know, I know it sounds counterintuitive, but where your muscle actually grows is when you're resting, when you're recovering. When you are going into the gym, you're tearing your muscle fibers down. Therefore, they need time to repair and build themselves back up. And where does that happen? That happens on your rest days. That happens when you're recovering. So, you know, if you're somebody out there, like I said, who's training 6-7 days a week and you think, oh my God, I'm amazing, I'm so much better than all those people training 5 days a week, 4 days a week, like joke's on you, because you're gonna be the one not really optimizing your muscle growth if you're doing that. So that would be my answer to that question. Good question. Second question, ways to get out of the want to stay lean headspace. So I like this question because I have been very open that the biggest mistake I feel like I have made in my bodybuilding career previously was staying way too lean in my off season, in my improvement season, where I did not really veer I gained weight post show, but I did not gain enough weight to put on muscle. So that is my biggest regret in my bodybuilding journey. And, you know, I don't even want to say it's a regret, because at the end of the day, we all have to go through, you know, those periods of, you know, where we learn lessons, right? But ways to get out of the want to stay lean headspace. You know, I think the biggest thing I remind myself of is, Lexi, if you're gonna continuously stay lean, like good luck ever improving as a bodybuilder. You can stay lean, or you can choose to get a little outside of your comfort zone and actually improve as a bodybuilder. And I think another thing that's really helped me during this phase is I'm always reminding myself, like, see, remember what sport you're in. You're in the sport of bodybuilding. This is not a sport of just always striving to be lean and small and shredded. Like, this is a sport where you have to take phases of building up your body, right? You are not a bodybuilder, and I'm sorry, you're not if you're just somebody who always just wants to stay shredded to the core, right? Like, you're never actually building your body. So, I know that weight gain is a scary thing, but I am a firm believer that it's necessary. But plus, you don't have to get sloppy with it. It's not like you have to go out and gain a ton of sloppy weight, but you do have to be okay with not being shredded and lean year round, and just have to remind yourself that that is what it takes if you want to improve as a bodybuilder, right? There's that old saying that's like, you want to grow or do you want to stay comfortable? Because you can't do both. And that's so true. If you're constantly in a state of feeling just comfortable and, lean, you're never going to grow. So that's just my best kind of answer for that question. And one other thing that really helps me is, back in the day when I was kind of in my comfort zone and I would stay lean year round, I remember seeing other people, other friends, bodybuilders of mine, actually getting uncomfortable and doing what they needed to do in their improvement season, gaining weight. And, while I just sat there kind of in my comfort zone, and where are they? Like, they are improving show to show. So that's another thing I remind myself of, is that, it's temporary discomfort. And that's what you have to just keep reminding yourself of. Okay, third question. How to make sure you're pushing hard enough in the gym? So that's a good question. I think one thing that helps is sometimes having an accountability buddy, having somebody there to help push you. Now, I don't train with anybody else, and I understand that this is not something everybody has the means to do, to have a training buddy with them. So that's one way, but another way is simply film yourself. Sometimes you feel like the weight is really heavy and you feel like something's really hard, and then you film yourself and you're like, oh, I made that look like a piece of cake. But also, really pay attention to your RPEs, your rate of perceived exertion for each movement, which means how many reps in reserve do you have at the end. So do you, just lay down the weight at the end of your set and just kind of you're like, okay, that was easy? Or do you really push to, not necessarily failure, but do you push to the point where you set that weight down and you're like, oh my God, that was challenging, that was taxing. I did not know if I was going to be able to get up that last rep. So you just kind of have to be real with yourself. And take videos of your training too. And if you have a coach, maybe you can send those videos to your coach so they can analyze them. Having a training buddy, that also helps. But that's my best probably answer to that question, so to say. Okay, how to deal with FOMO from wishing you could do another show. Okay, I like this question. So FOMO, fear of missing out. So, one of the things I have learned, and probably one of the most valuable lessons, is to not have that grass is greener mindset, meaning when you're in prep, sometimes you want to be in improvement season. And when you're in improvement season, sometimes you want to be in prep. And, that is one thing that I have really made a promise to myself this season of my bodybuilding journey, is to really just focus on being present, being in the moment, realizing that this is my journey and this is exactly where I need to be. Because, there were times in my prep where I would look at girls in their off season and be like, oh my gosh, I wish, I looked as strong as them. I wish I was lifting as heavy as them. And then there's also time in my improvement season where I'm just like, wow, I really wish I was in prep. But you have to just appreciate where you're at in this moment of time and not have that grass is greener mindset. Now, one of the things I really recommend, as a competitor, if you're in your improvement season and you are experiencing FOMO from seeing all these girls competing, is go to a show. Just because you're not competing doesn't mean you can't go to a show. Go to a show, support your friends, go to posing seminars. There are ways to stay involved within the sport without actually competing, So you can choose in your improvement season to just sit back and not go to those things. Or you can choose to still be a part of the sport. You're just not competing. You're every bit of a bodybuilder when you are not in prep. If anything, when you're in your improvement season, you're more of a bodybuilder because you're actually building your body, right? I know a lot of competitors struggle with kind of that identity crisis in their improvement season where they feel like, oh my gosh, like I am not a bodybuilder because I'm not lean, I'm not shredded and all, I'm not competing. But yes, girlfriend, you are a bodybuilder. If anything, you're more of a bodybuilder in your improvement season because you're building your body. But if you want to, if you're experiencing FOMO, I always just say, go to shows, support your friends, go to posing seminars. Like, just because you're not prepping doesn't mean you can't still do that stuff, Okay. What do I love most about improvement season and what is the most challenging? Okay, so what do I love most? This is an easy one for me. I absolutely love training in my improvement season. Like, I actually just went to the gym before I filmed this video and I felt like a badass in the gym. And that is what I love about improvement season is like, I don't go into the gym, I don't feel weak, I'm not food focused the whole time because that's something I struggled with in prep. Like, I would go into the gym and all I'd be thinking about is food, right? And like getting through my workout so I could go home and eat, And like, that's not fun. That's not fun. And also I remember I would feel weak, you get so lean that you just feel kind of frail. So I absolutely love training in my improvement season. That is 100% my favorite. What is the most challenging for me? I would say the most challenging thing for me in my improvement season is sometimes like knowing what my goal is. Like, my goal is I need to be eating more. I need to be not doing a ton of cardio. And sometimes the hardest thing for me is like seeing my friends or seeing other people on social media who are in prep and, they're doing 2-a-days with their cardio and they're like talking about, they're so hungry. And like, I have that athlete mindset of always like wanting to push. And so, having to kind of take a step back and realize that like in this phase, like my job is not to, deprive myself of food or to overdo cardio. Like, my job is to actually eat more and do less. Like, that is what I'm supposed to be doing right now. So sometimes it's hard for me when I see other people doing the absolute most to like feel okay with doing what I'm doing right now. It almost makes me feel guilty in a way, but I know that's a silly thought. Like, I shouldn't feel guilty, but that's probably the most challenging thing for me. In the grand scheme of things, that's probably the most challenging thing for me. Okay. Do you allow yourself cheat meals? And how do you not want to binge eat? So I don't like to call them cheat meals. I really don't. I just think cheat meals, and all my clients know this, I don't call them cheat meals. I call them untracked meals. Because I think cheat just has like a bad connotation. It like makes me think of somebody going to the Cheesecake Factory and ordering like a burger and fries and 5 pieces of cheesecake. Okay, maybe not 5. That's a little dramatic, but you know what I mean. So yeah, I have untracked meals in my improvement season. And here's the thing, like my food is so high where I can pretty much like go anywhere and get a meal and still fit it in my macros just fine. Like, sometimes though, I will take an untracked meal if I just psychologically don't want to have to like stress about like the numbers, right? And chances are, if I don't track something, like at the end of the day, with my macros being where they're at, I'm probably not going to eat over them. So that's just the reality of like where I am at in my season. Now, how do I not want to binge eat? So I've been very open about this in previous YouTube videos about that is something I struggled with in my past years. Is binge eating, more specifically in my late high school years. That was a really big thing I struggled with for a long time. And I'm not gonna lie, every once in a while, I do still have like that thought in my head. Like, it's one of those things that you can definitely overcome, but it's, it's always a thought you're gonna kind of battle in your head to some degree. And, how do I not want to binge eat? I think the best piece of advice I could give you there is, well, 2 things. Don't keep food in the house if you know you can't control yourself around it. Like, that's just as simple as that. And the second thing is, don't deprive yourself of food you love. I think part of the reason I don't really get crazy cravings and like urges to binge is because I don't restrict myself. I also don't restrict myself with like my food choices. So yes, my macros are super high, so I'm not restricting myself calorie-wise, but I am also not restricting myself with what I'm eating. So yes, I eat, 90% whole foods, but I'm going to allow myself to have a little something here and there if I'm craving it, right? So I think the key to not having that urge to binge is to make sure you're eating foods you enjoy, and just don't constantly restrict yourself, because the more and more you restrict yourself, it's gonna lead to it's gonna potentially lead to an eventual like binge episode, if that makes sense. Okay. Do your calories differ on rest days for each season? So, no, good question. So, no, actually, my prep and my improvement season, my calories, my macros, my protein, carbs, and fats never change on my rest days compared to my training days. And you know, I know some people like they do different macros for both days, and I'm not saying that like that's wrong or that's right. Like I think it's fine either way. I just personally always consume the same macros, rest days, and training days. And also in the grand scheme of things, you guys, your training, I think a lot of people think like, oh my gosh, you eat the same amount of food when even on your rest days, but in the grand scheme of things, your training like does not make up a crazy amount of calories that you're burning on a daily basis. Like the majority of the calories you burn on a daily basis come from your BMR and your NEAT activity, and then a very small fraction comes from your actual workout. So don't freak out. Like if you are somebody and your coach is prescribing you to eat the same macros on your rest days and your training days, don't freak out. Like I said, that's not the only way to do it, but that's just personally how I do it in my plan. Okay. What is your favorite meal in off season? And I'm sorry if I sound a little raspy, guys. I'm kind of losing my voice. My favorite meal in off season, okay, or improvement season. I like to call it improvement season. It is honestly my oat bowls. And I think I've eaten like a variation of this even in prep, and it's my oatmeal with Greek yogurt and then grated zucchini. I started this in prep and I literally love it. I have it every day. So it sounds really weird, but if you guys have tried it, you know it is literally the shiz. But essentially I cook my oatmeal and I mix in Greek yogurt when it's cooked, after it's cooked. And it makes it like all creamy. And then I add in a little bit of raw grated zucchini, and it's just like, so good. The zucchini you can't even taste. So it like hides veggies in your oatmeal, but also adds a little bit of volume, which is really helpful in prep. So that is my favorite meal in prep and in my improvement season. Okay, what is your favorite non-bodybuilding activity in your improvement season? Oh, I like this question a lot. Okay. So my favorite non-bodybuilding activity in my improvement season, I really like this question because I think that in your improvement season, it's a really good time to like focus on other areas of your life as well that like are outside of bodybuilding. And I would say I feel like I'm a lot more like willing to say yes to things when I'm in my improvement season, specifically like travels. So I've gotten a lot of work opportunities to like travel recently, and I have a travel coming up at the end of this month. I'm going to summer shredding in Houston. So if any of you guys will be there, like hit me up in the comments. I'd love to meet up. But I think that that's my favorite thing that I have done so far in this improvement season is just being more open to travel and just being a little bit more spontaneous. Like that is something that I kind of refrained from in prep because like traveling, the thought of traveling stressed me out, like having to do my cardio, having to prep all my food, all of that. But that is something that's been so fun for me to be able to just say yes to more in like improvement season. Like my mom, this was back in November, but she, and I have a vlog on this whole trip, but she went to California for work and she was like, hey Lexi, like I have a hotel room. You can, if you want to buy your flights and come out with me and just explore and then work there as well, like you can. And in prep, I would have absolutely said no, but I said yes because I'm like, why not? So that was so fun. And I have a whole vlog on that trip. So you can go back and watch that if you want. But okay, getting down to, I have two more questions and they're kind of actually the same. So this is the question everybody always asks me. And well, they're two questions, but like I said, they're typically the same thing. So what are my current macros and how high do you usually get your calories and carbs in your improvement season? So the question on how high do I typically get, I honestly can't answer that because this is truly the first like strict improvement season I've had. My last improvement season, I was kind of just intuitively eating. So this is the first improvement season I've actually worked with a coach. I've worked with Paul throughout this whole improvement season, and my macros are, so I'm gonna do a little disclaimer. My macros are my macros. Please do not follow them. A lot of you guys out there watching, if you try and follow them, it's a lot of food. So I am eating 300 grams of carbs. My fat is, I believe, around 60, and my protein is around 135. So everybody always wants to know. So yeah, and you know, don't sit there, if you have never been able to eat that amount, like don't sit there thinking that it's never going to be possible for you, because it absolutely can. Like I have gotten to this place because I have put on the muscle that my body does require that food amount to retain my muscle. But also, throughout this improvement season, I have treated it like, I say like a prep, but I mean that like I have just not fallen off track. I've still followed the plan, and because I have actually followed the plan the entire time, Paul has been able to increase my macros. So I've been loving it. I mean, some days are harder than others, don't get me wrong, but those are my macros. So anywho, well, if you guys have made it this far, I appreciate you so much. I'm so glad that I finished all of the questions, because I feel like my poor voice is kind of going. It's a little raspy at this point in the video, but thank you guys for watching. Comment below if you guys want to see a specific video in the future. It can be a sit down topic, it can be a vlog topic, whatever you want to see. I told you guys that I'm going to start getting more consistent with my YouTube videos, like probably uploading multiple times a week. So give me some content to film. Put the comments put your suggestions in the comments below. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let's connect on Instagram if we are not already connected there. As always, I'll put my Instagram above. But thank you guys for watching, and I will catch you guys in the next video.